All right, so today we have the amazing Karla. I'm going to let her introduce herself. We met at the Taste Studio at an event a few weeks ago, which was really fun. So yeah, super excited to have Karla speak to you guys today, and it's all yours.
Hi ladies, it's so good to be here. You guys are all making me want to move to Ripon. I'm like staring at the window like, wow, it's so cute. I don't feel like I feel like I'm somewhere else, but I'm originally from Modesto and I moved here about 5 years ago. So just to introduce myself before I get into what I'm going to speak about, I originally worked in Hollywood, realized that just wasn't for me. I worked behind the scenes and as a production assistant, producer, and then I discovered the world of business and I fell in love with it. So I started a social media company, and then just recently I stepped into my courage, which is what I'm going to be speaking about today, and just decided to walk away from that and really pursue my role as a personal growth coach. I've been doing that for about 2 years. So that's where my heart is, and I really love helping women know who they are and also let go of the things that are telling them they can't be who they are. And so to jump into this conversation, the story that I'm going to share, being that I am teaching on courage and letting go of fears today, I was like, I need to come up with a topic and share my story that is going to allow me to step out of my comfort zone. So I do have notes, and it's very new for me to share this story on like a stage or in a group of people. For me, something that kept coming up in my head was courage is when self-awareness meets self-expression, when you're able to understand who it is that you are, including your weaknesses and your fears, but also understanding your desires and your dreams and the values and the beliefs that you have, and really knowing when certain things are getting in the way of becoming the person that you're meant to be and expressing yourself and showing up in the way that you truly want to show up. And so in today's world, right, there's so many expectations of who we should be, what we should say, how we should act, and sometimes that gets in the way of our core values and how we choose to live our lives. And so to share my story, in 2016, I was at a low point in my life. I felt lost and confused. I hated my job. I just felt very disconnected with who I am. At this time, I had a disagreement with one of my friends, and I started questioning my beliefs and the person that I was. And to be very specific, it was one of my dearest friends who I love so much. He was in a phase in his life where he was deciding if he was going to turn into a woman or not, and make that choice for himself. And at that time, I hadn't really fully supported him as much as I wanted to, and that really led to me questioning the type of person that I was, and like what my beliefs were and my values, and if I did show up from a place of love and respect. And so instead of really diving into my feelings and having this conversation about my fears, and for him, and because I loved him, right, I chose to lead a life just like full of distractions. So I remember the night that we discussed, right, I just wanted to distract myself. And so I went on a date, because he was on a date. This is one of my best friends to this day. I love this man. So I went on a date, he was on a date too. I'm like, you know what, like, people are living their lives, like I need to live my life too. And I really loved the courage that he had to share this like part of himself with me. And so I was like, I need to live with courage as well. But I chose it in a way that was just like going to distract me from the actual like situation that was happening. And so I downloaded Tinder, went on a date with a guy super late at night, and that time this guy was very like well-traveled. He had a beard, and mind you, I was like in my mid-20s, so I was like, a guy with a beard, he's well-traveled, he snowboards, like so cool, he speaks different languages or whatever, right? And so he was just like, on paper, he sounded really cool, and he asked if I wanted to come over to his place, and I said yes. And at that time, I thought that was like a way of me being courageous, right? Me being like, oh, I'm gonna step into my comfort zone and just live my life and do what I want to, right? And kind of like the F my feelings, F the world kind of situation. And what actually led in that moment at that night, it was for me to have shame, guilt, and self-loathing. And although self-awareness followed that night, and I decided not to make any choices that I would regret, and I was able to walk away from that situation, self-expression followed me after. And I knew that there was something that I still had to deal with, this experience that I had with my friend, and learning that I wanted to support him in any decision that he made and just being there for him, but also really questioning like what my values and my beliefs and what I stood for, if they aligned with other people or if they didn't, being very clear about like who I was. But instead of focusing on discovering that, I decided to express myself through what I love most, which is storytelling. And I started a series called Never Have I Ever on YouTube, where I would challenge myself to step out of my comfort zone and try something new every week. So I would I went from flying, surfing, because I'm scared of sharks, so that was a big deal for me, to flying a plane, to solo traveling like this guy that I wanted to be like, who I had gone on this date with. And I just really started stepping out of my comfort zone. And even though it felt super cool to be courageous and do all these things that were super out of my comfort zone, at the end of the day, my fears, my feelings, and questioning who I was still followed me 3 years later in 2019. I went back to the same patterns of making really horrible choices in my dating world, and that led me to depression, to feeling lost, and to, again, self-loathing. And so, although I wore my title of courage with honor, when I realized what courage truly was, it was being able to sometimes dive deep into what's in here and what's in here, what are some of the weaknesses or the fears or the negative emotions that you're struggling with. And so I reconnected with my self-awareness, and this time my self-expression wasn't met with distraction or self-sabotage or fuck this world's mentality, and just saying the F word for me was a lot of courage because I was I don't cuss, but at the same time, it really that's how I was living my life. It wasn't who I truly was. And so when we realize that self-awareness helps us understand our values, and that's something that I want to talk about, and we're going to go through an activity to discover our values. When we're in touch with our inner selves, we have a better sense of who we are and what matters most to us. So really getting clear on who is the person that I want to be, and how am I going to step into that person courageously, through first self-awareness, so understanding my weaknesses, and it requires facing difficult truths about who we are in the world around us. So that could be scary because in the beginning, right, with just this experience that I had with my friend, I really had to just it wasn't just me now, it was the world and that person in my life who either I was going to agree or disagree or support or not support it. And so, self-expression helps us live in alignment with our values. And when we have the courage to express ourselves in a way that is true to our values, we get to live a more authentic and fulfilled life. And so in order to courageously express yourself, you must confront the parts of yourself that you rather ignore, which requires a deep level of self-awareness. And when you are able to have that deep self-awareness, then you're able to express yourself in the way that is really in alignment to who you are. So for me, that was living with purpose, with integrity, with truth, and even sharing this story, or expressing my emotions to the people around me, even though they may not match up with theirs, right? And so that's a very scary thing to do. So self-awareness requires honesty, it requires vulnerability, and it requires taking courageous action, which at that point it is expressing yourself either through sharing about your fears with someone you're in a relationship with, or trying something new that you're afraid of, or even letting go of something that no longer serves you, like the way that I let go of my social media business. So how do we step into our courage and let go of the fears? Well, first we must recognize our fears and ask ourselves, really recognize and understand, where are these fears coming from? Is it from the past? Is it from something that hasn't even happened in the future? And how is it affecting us in our present? And it also requires, of course, you taking that courageous action. So for me, when courage, which for me means when self-awareness means self-expression, I had to question like why I was living a life that wasn't in alignment to my values, and also having to take the steps that were scary, like going to therapy, hiring a coach, telling them about my struggles, and then also taking action on the person that I wanted to become, because oftentimes that action, there was moments of failure, right? And then there was those fears of failing, or fears of not doing it right, or fears of going back to my old ways. But moving forward and taking that action, and also having self-compassion on yourself when those fears come up, is very important when you learn to recognize those fears and sit with them and hug them and question them, because the more that you just let go of these fears, they're going to follow you, they're going to catch up. So you want to be able to step into them and kind of fight them off, right? So that being said, when we step into our courage, we face our fears with more self-confidence and resilience, and because we are able to face them, we are able to become the person that we're meant to be. So, that being said, I have an exercise that I want to give you guys, because I think it's important to not just hear someone talk, especially in such a close environment like this, very laid back. So I feel like a teacher. So I printed something out for you ladies. So I'm going to pass these out. We're going to go through really understanding our values, because when we understand our values, anytime something shows up in our life that freaks us out, when we're in alignment with our values, we're going to make decisions based on those values. So, here you go. Oh, dang it, you know what I did forget? I had some pens.
I was going to say, I don't think you brought your own pen.
I did. Not enough. This group is big. Are you confused?
Oh, and then.
I brought pens though, I do have. Who needs a pen?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
If you don't have one.
I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Yay. Alright, so at the back of the page I have a little like gift-free lane, and I'll share more about that later. But until then, so there are 6 areas of life, and this is what I take my clients through. Of course, career could be broken down into like money, it could be breaking like finances, like however you want to see that. I have a description of what each category means. So the 6 areas of life are essentially your life values. That is like what you value most. So some of you may value relationships more than career. I had a client of mine who valued career more than she did family, but it wasn't because she would give up her family for her career, but for her, just her experiences in her life, like career was at the top because it allowed her to provide for her family. She was passionate, she was living in her purpose through her career. So that was like top value for her. For some of you, maybe spirituality is what I meant to write there. For me, that's my number 1 value, when spirituality and then purpose and so many others follow down. So really understanding your values is going to help you, like I said, live in alignment within your values. And what does that mean? Like the decisions that you make, they're going to be in connection with your values. And oftentimes when we forget about our values, we can make choices that cause us confusion, that cause us to feel lost or disconnected from the world around us. But when we live in alignment with our values, and we know, like for me, it's important to have purpose in my life. And if you know your purpose, So one of my clients recently, her purpose was like being a resource to people and being able to help them. And she didn't care how she did that, if it was through her, she had a food truck, or if it was through now what she wants to do, writing. If she felt like she was being a resource to her community, she felt like she was living her purpose. And so when you have those values in mind and you're like, you know, courage for me, as you guys heard, is very important for me. When I'm able to step into my courage, not only through doing the things that help me feel brave and fearless, but also the stuff that like a lot of us avoid, which is our feelings and our thoughts. And when I'm able to step into that courage, I feel very connected to who I am, and it allows me to make decisions with courage. It allows me to try to implement courage into my everyday life when I'm starting to feel kind of like, my life feels a little boring. I'm like, I need to do something that's like going to make me step out of my comfort zone. And this like day was one of those things, because I hadn't talked about this specific topic in this structure. And so I was like, this is the perfect environment to do it. It's the first time we talk about it, so I might mess up like in front of a crowd, but for me it was important to like step into those fears and push them away, right? So that being said, there's steps on the next page. So these life values, you're gonna be able to, so apart from these 6 life values, I want you to also think about no other themes in your life, like for example, purpose, courage, I mentioned those 2, clearly they're like top values for me, that themes that recur in your life often. So if that might be energy, might be strength or resilience or self-expression or truth or honesty or integrity, whatever comes up for you that you're like, these are recurring themes in my life, I want you to write those down. And then if you don't have anything, you're like, no, I'm just gonna stick to the circle right here, the 6 life values, that's okay too. But I wanna give you some time to just, you know, think it through, look it through the window and just kind of meditate on some of those themes that show up in your life. Yeah, no, I was going to wait until I was watching you all, still right. But if you wanted to jump into step number 2, I'll go through it. So, complex equivalence, I'm trying not to just use all these like random words I use in my coaching practice, and my clients are like, what the heck does that mean? So I did describe that for you. It means attaching like a specific meaning to something that has 2 statements. So for example, like spirituality, like, so one be hate. So for example, you could say like kindness means, or strength, it means being like good at this thing, which means I'm a good person. So it's like, you describe it and then you're like, because of this reason. But to make it more simple for you, I did add a second definition, so it just truly means, what does it mean to you? Like, what does it mean to me? So for example, for spirituality, I put being connected with my creator and surrendering to him in everything that I do. And then I put peace, having an essence of calm even during the chaos. So what does it mean to you? Just like, don't be afraid to be descriptive. And this also gives you an opportunity to see if there's any disconnect with your values. For example, a client once told me like financial freedom, and then she said /money, and I asked, okay, what does that mean to you? And she said, well, I would love to have money because I would be able to help my family, but her second part was there was that negative statement, which we worked on, but she said because money is evil. So she felt uncomfortable wanting money and making that like, making abundance one of her values in connection with money, because she's like, it's evil. So then we went through the process of like, why do you think it's evil, right? But just like, what does it mean to you? And this is a great exercise for you to build that self-awareness, like, okay, peace means this to me, and really just understanding yourself a little bit better and what you need to work on as well. And if you need more time, it's fine to do this at home. But for step number 3, I just want to be able to take you through the process, is just ranking your life values, the words, if you included these 6 areas of life and then you added other themes into your life, looking at both of those, the life areas and then the themes, and creating a set of life values that you can live in, that every decision that you make are in alignment with those. And so putting them in order. So your number 1 value is like top priority. And so for me, that one is spirituality, 2 is peace, 3 is courage. And then I kind of questioned, and I was like, I need to do some work, because for me, respect comes before truth, because it's important for me to respect people and be kind before I ever speak my truth. So knowing that about myself, I'm like, okay, there's sometimes I could bite my tongue because it's okay for me to have a higher level of self-awareness than it is to express myself, especially if it comes up in a place of reacting. So that's something that I know about myself. So think about what is number 1 for me, what is number 2, and have those in mind. So when you make decisions and you're saying, oh, I'm feeling a little disconnected with myself. Maybe for me, when I feel disconnected with myself, it's because I haven't tapped into anything spiritual. And for me, spiritual could even be going outdoors and like feeling the wind and just like being connected to the creator who made this world. And so when I'm living very on autopilot and I'm just on my computer every day and I'm just going to meetings and I'm on calls and then I react, or like that negativity comes and attacks me, I'm like, ooh, like I'm not really living in alignment with my value. Like I'm not creating a place of peace for myself. I'm not connecting to my spirituality, and I'm not doing things that are that are making me step out of my comfort zone. Like I'm just doing the autopilot thing. And so when you live, when you create, when you make time for your values and you put your values into your schedule and your everyday life, you're going to see a change in how you show up. Alright, so I know there's still some pens and thinking hats on, which is okay. So I encourage you to go and do this exact exercise, these 3 steps with the 6 areas of life. So getting specific on like your relationship values, and mind you, like they may bleed in. Like my personal growth and my spiritual values are very similar. It does resonate with peace and courage and truth. But like my family values are completely different. Like my family, one of my top values for family is like togetherness. So it's important for me to have that and be connected even to like my relatives, not just like my immediate family. It's respect. It's constant improvement, which I've noticed there's some form of negativity there, which I'm working on, because constant improvement for me, it's like because I didn't grow up in a family that I guess have their shit together in some capacity, you know, like go to therapy, you know. I kind of want to have that for my family where we do have that constant improvement, but I also don't want to become that mom who's like a psychologist and my kids hate me, you know. So like I'm working on that, but my values, you know, I've gotten very clear on like what are my career values, what are my physical fitness values, and so I encourage you guys just to have fun with it, you ladies. I encourage you ladies to just have fun with it and take those 3 steps and then ask yourself, like, what's important to me about family, and see what themes and words come up for you. Or what's important to me about my relationship, or if you're single, like maybe that's a great way for you to start knowing what it is that you want in a healthy relationship. So it's very beneficial to do this activity, and I really wanted to share it with you all because it's something that has really helped me in my life, understanding myself and helping other people, of course. So lastly, I do have a little gift for you in the back. So I do something called a breakthrough story intensive. As you know, I'm a personal growth coach. I'm also a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, which if you don't know what that is, it's essentially just really getting clear on the language that you're using to express yourself and the world around you, and also how that affects your mindset and how you create your life. So what goals are you creating or not going after because of the narratives that you're telling yourself about who you are in the world. And so in this story breakthrough intensive, it's a 3-day intensive. It's 2 to 3 hours each day, like back to back, or at least in the span of 5 days. And the first day I get really clear on what are some of the stories, patterns, fears, negative emotions, and limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And then we go through a process called mental and emotional release, which is where I help you let go of that subconsciously. So it is a very vulnerable intensive, but at the end of the day, you're just like, oh my God, I've been carrying this around for 10 years or 5 or whatever. Like in just 3 days, I feel more courageous or more empowered, or I have a clear idea of what my next steps in the vision are. So I wanted to give you guys like a little discount. So it is through an application process only, because I want to ensure that I am the right fit for you and that you're my ideal person that I want to work with, that you're ready for change. So there is a little coupon code when you apply, and then it's 20% off. So the word's courage. So I definitely would love to connect with you. And if you just want to reach out, if you have any questions, like you're not interested in that, you're not ready for that, totally fine too. But if you just have something comes up from this topic and you want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram. So I love sending voice memos. So you might get like a 1-minute voice memo. If you ask me a question, I will answer it passionately. Yeah, but it's been really great to be here with you, ladies. Do you have any questions, or how do you feel? Like, how is this exercise for you? How's your day?
Yeah. Instagram is your name.
Yes, Karla Gregg. Yes. You want to
I just kind of feel like it's really deep.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna dig, like you have to dig deep, so that means it's gonna take some time.
100%. Yeah, you can't do it here, but I wanted to introduce this like tool to you. So you, because this is something that I go through, it's easier when I'm working one-on-one with you to help you do this, but at the same time, like for you to have this tool and walk away with it if you're not ready to, one of the steps to connect, or to more so letting go of your fears, right? It's like questioning your fears or getting that support. Right now you may be in the step where you're just like, I haven't even gotten this deep with myself. Like I know there's something there that is affecting me from like transforming into the person I want to be, but I'm not there. Like I need to understand my fears or like question them, and then I'll get to the point where I actually need support because I don't want to like live with these fears and I don't know the next step, right? So it is deep, it definitely is, but I like to say I'm deep and derpy, and like when I can mix those two in, I'm like, yes, tell me your life story. So yeah, it will take some time for you to think those through. Yeah.
Has anyone ever done any work on like figuring out your core values? One of our first WOO meetings was a core value lesson that we did, and it was like a sheet of trying to narrow down to like 5 core values of your life. Have any of you done that? I mean, most of us have been a little before, but
I want to say at work, like, you have these core values, and if you make decisions based off of those, like for me, I'm in HR, so
yeah.
like, I have these values, okay, make decisions based off company values, and you can't go wrong,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
focusing on my personal
Yeah.
values.
Caught me off guard there.
I
was not liking this on computer.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was very
Well,
hard.
it's getting uncomfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's like, cause I've worked with a coach, and like the more it's hard, cause you get uncomfortable working through this stuff, but it's where the magic happens. When you work through this uncomfortable stuff that is holding you back, once you get to the other side of that is where all the beautiful things lie. And then there's something else you probably have to, that's what I'm finding out. I told my coach the other day, I was like, when am I gonna
fun.
Will I ever be not fighting something? Like we dug up one of like another generational thing that I was like, what the crap? What another one that I have to like overcome?
And that's where you really, like, that's when you really have to like, because yes, there's always gonna be self-exploration, but you don't wanna get stuck in that where it's like, where did this fear come from, right? Like, you wanna be living that person that you are, where you're like, I'm courageous, I'm not gonna be stuck on the fear and like what happened to me, or like why I'm scared of this, or why I get really nervous before I'm like talking in front of a group, right? Like, just stepping into that courage or that value that you wanna live by and embracing that, that's when you're, it's not that discomfort is gonna go away, because you're gonna know, I mean, just 2 weeks ago, like a lot of these feelings of I need to be validated by people came up, and it made me just like question, like I was going to build like a social media like entire business with like DAs and stuff. I'm like, I don't even want to do this, right? It made me question everything because I was so stuck on the feelings and the emotions, and I was just like, no, I need to make a decision. I know my values, like I don't want to have a social media company. I know my goals, I know my vision, and so it was easier for me to let go. I didn't have to sit in the like soul game for too long, right?
And
but it
that's
is
where
difficult.
It's beautiful is when you do get clear, then when those hard decisions come, like I have certain people that inquire about sessions and it's not a good fit. You used to like, oh, now I feel like a bad person because we weren't a good fit, but it's okay. Like once you get clear with who you are, you're like, oh, I'm meant to work with certain people, and you know they're meant to work with me, and that's where the beauty lies. And like the more you learn about yourself and get clear about yourself, those, I don't know, my coach is all about helping you live a life of ease. And you don't beat yourself up.
Right.
This is constant work. I think we're so busy as moms, as caretakers, our husbands, our career, that we forget. And so this was just like a reminder, like, oh my gosh, I need to take a step back and put this back into my life every day, so it can be peaceful. Because right now it's just
us as moms, we don't find like the quiet. And finding, we almost have to schedule quiet time to do stuff like this.
Waking up at 5 a.m. before the kids get up to work on you.
And you need it to be like quiet and calm to really like sit and think and work on yourself.
But even though this was uncomfortable for some, or all of us, like it does take courage to even just be here with like a group of women and not knowing what the topic, or somewhat knowing, right? It was on Instagram, but at the same time, like not knowing what it's going to be in the actual content, right? And still being here, and also expressing how it made you feel, or what came up for you, like that takes a lot of courage. So you're already taking that step into your courage. So
So that's what this group has been about, like from the beginning, was really, I know so many women, I feel like we all have such amazing gifts. And so, I mean, in this room, look at all the different talents, like just as we introduced ourselves. And we can all be and, really amazing and, impact this world in amazing ways. And so often these fears like hold us back, and I just want to see everyone just bloom and blossom in where they're at and who they are. Because each one of you, every person that you come across in every day, you have an impact. From the hair salon in your chair, to the realtor with a client, to even your coworkers that then impact. I mean, each of you impact this world daily. So I hope this talk and this group just helps you, just really own who you are and the amazing people that you are.
I love it.
wow, that's also good.
And if you really need a great exercise, come do Pilates with me. I think we should do a move Pilates class.
That'd be amazing.
Oh,
That'd be awesome.
Would that be fun? Or even a move like stretch class or something.
Good. Yeah, take turns, like
Yeah.
and while somebody else is here, you're like meditating.
Yes, or something. Yeah, we should
With
plan
foam
that.
rollers.